This going here. Here we go. Welcome to Inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from Hollywood, California. With me, you know her as the co-founder of the Union Sports 99 World Cup winner, Saskia Weber. And joining us, a man that we haven't seen in at least 14 days, Houston Dynamo's Ryan Coulter. Ryan, honestly, this is really cool, man, because I know you're a big fan of the show, so we're really excited that you've finally been able to get on.
No, great to be here for the first time. As I said, I think you guys are probably sick of me at this stage. It was less.
No way.
You saw me, so
I can't believe it was 14 days. I feel like it was this fast. I'm like, didn't I just get back on Sunday? What are you talking about? I mean, it's more like 10 days.
Maybe it is more. Maybe it is more like 10 days.
It was last weekend.
Was it
I know
last
it feels
weekend?
honestly like it was only a couple of days ago. It's been wild.
I'm like, what?
So Ryan, obviously you've been off kind of a whirlwind ever since you kind of got back from a convention. But kind of before we get into the whole episode, for maybe some people who are not familiar with your role at Houston Dynamo, why don't you kind of give them a little bit of insight?
Yeah, so I've been at the club for a couple of years. I joined the organization 2 years ago. I joined as first team goalkeeper coach at RGV Toros, which was the USL affiliate at the time. So I worked closely with Paul Rogers and Jason Grubb. And last December, basically, so a year ago, the two clubs decided to go their separate ways. So I moved up to Houston to join the academy full time, working under Jason Grubb, who was the head of academy goalkeeping at the time, and Paul Rogers, who was first team goalkeeper coach. So I've been up here about a year now. I think just over a year in Houston. And the last year I've been formation phase goalkeeping director. Again, working closely with Jay and Paul. And the last month or so, I've kind of been heading up the academy as Jay's transitioned into Dynamo 2 goalkeeper coach. So it's been an interesting year at the club, and certainly kind of a lot of movement in the last number of weeks. So been a busy time, but a great time, and learning from two of the best in the game.
I mean, look, I think that's just so important right there. Saskia, I mean, we always talk about this, is that, things are going to be always in flux, and they're always going to be in transition when it comes to coaching moves and player moves and all of that. And you have to find the sanity within yourself to keep growing as an individual, however that is.
Was that rhetorical again? Like, yes.
No, I wanted you to expand on that, because I think you have some familiarity with this.
Yes, I do. Obviously, I'm not with UCLA anymore. No, but you do have to grow, and you have to move with the game. And, head coaches change, system, staff changes, and everything. But I think we're learning more and more, whether it's in the professional game down to the college game and everywhere, how you have to have a goalkeeper coach, and how important it is to have a goalkeeper coach on staff. And, that mindset is changing. Not as fast as I'd like, but that mindset is changing.
Well, I mean, I think you brought up a really good point, Saskia, and obviously, shout out to what Paul, built in Houston, even though he's no longer there, even though now, speaking of coaching changes, and now that he's at FC Cincinnati, but that culture that he kind of built there, Ryan, in regards to establishing a goalkeeping culture where he said, hey, you know what? I'm willing to take a little bit less for myself if that allows me to hire some staff to really make this a wonderful environment for the players, which is really ultimately what it's about.
Yeah, I've not come across someone with really the same. I mean, I'd consider myself a goalkeeping enthusiast and goalkeeping obsessed. My wife would probably say borderline obsessed. So I think with someone like Paul overseeing everything, someone that is just so passionate about the position, I think then having Jason and myself there as well, two people that also share an extreme love for the position was really a great thing in terms of the integration from top to bottom. We were only talking about it in the last couple of weeks that Paul was showing interest even as far down as the Catalyst program, so kids that aren't even on site that are below. We would only have our under 13s and upwards on site. So Paul would still show an interest in the catalyst goalkeepers that are possibly going to be joining our academy in the next 2 to 3 years. So it was brilliant having that level of integration, and that worked from Paul down, as well as myself and Jason and our involvement with with first team project and scouting and analysis and everything else. So I think it helps when you build that level of trust within a department, that you see things with a different set of eyes. Now, whether it's looking at academy goalkeepers or whether it's Paul asking for our opinion on goalkeepers to possibly sign for the first team. So it was a really beneficial time having Paul here. And I can't say enough positive things about him, and indeed Jason.
Well, this is just becoming a Paul Rogers love fest. So shout out to Paul Rogers, who's gone on to different things in Cincinnati. Definitely a different type of weather. Ryan, I don't know if you know this, by the way, Saskia actually invented short sleeve goalkeeper jerseys in Texas.
Tell me more.
The original.
So this is actually, that story was actually told at Tony DeCicco's memorial as well. But we were coaching at Rice University. We would always coach goalkeeper his camps at Rice in the summer, and it's in July. It's 100 degrees. The kids have to take a water break after every drill. It's like brutal. It's like 100 degrees, 100% humidity. And we had those. You remember those old like Adidas goalkeeper jerseys? They're really thin, but they had like the 3 stripes on the shoulder.
The gray and the red ones?
There were the yellow, the red, the green. Yeah, and they just were thin, but they had. And I'm out there, and I'm like, it's 100 degrees, and I'm like, why am I in a long sleeve? Like, it said Soccer Plus on it and everything. I'm like, this is killing me. So I went and I cut my sleeves off. Right. So I come out and I just cut them here, like above the elbow. And I come out, and Tony and Bill Steffen decide that I am going to demo in front of the entire camp Front Mothers as a way to punish me for cutting my sleeves off my staff jersey. And it was over and over and over again. And the grass out there is really coarse in the summer and everything. I came up and I was like bleeding from my forearms, and I was just like, all right, I get it. But I still did, I was the first. That was the first.
You got the ball rolling.
I did. Of course, now when you're training on plush grass that, people boycott if there's like one divot missing, like you don't need a long sleeve shirt. So, but I was the first.
It's funny you bring that up, Saskia, because I was just thinking about this with Ryan, and I think Ryan, we actually talked about this as well too. In Ireland, for instance, a lot of the fields are not the most pristine, let's just say, consistently, especially with the weather situations. Obviously the weather situation is different in Texas and everything. But when you have these kids coming in, who are from the academy system, and then they go and play, a non-academy team and everything, and they're like complaining about, the ground and everything like that. Is that a conversation that you ever have with them and say, like, it's not always going to be perfect?
Yeah, I mean, it is, absolutely. I think Saskia's hit the nail on the head. Like, I mean, you look at the way the game's gone now and how facilities have developed, and just the overall level expectation and professionalism, even when it comes to the youth game. Everyone just expects more. Like, it has to be more. It has to be better. We have to see more. Facilities have to be bigger. It just constantly grows. And when we talk to our goalkeepers in the academy, you're always talking about just your level of preparation, right? If you're going to go and play against a team that you don't know what the surface is going to be, there's no point in getting there and complaining and saying, oh, it's softer than I thought it was going to be, or it's harder than it could have been.
Right.
It's you've got to make sure you've got the right equipment. You've got an undersleeve. If you've got a short sleeve jersey, make sure you take an undershirt, right? So that way you're going to be able to play. If you're playing on turf, make sure you take maybe a pair of leggings if you want to go that route. If you're playing away, you don't know what the conditions are going to be, make sure you've got firm grounds and you've got soft grounds. Don't get there and then complain. Make sure you're prepared.
Yeah, and I think for coaches out there, I think you find it with, like, especially in a youth game, with kids that ask that question, like, should I get now the padded shorts are like like tight shorts. They're not like those. Remember those big pads, like padded
Heavy.
shorts, those heavy, big padded, thick pants and stuff. They're not like that anymore. And when a kid asks you that, you have to take in consideration the training ground and everything. Like, if you're used to training on pristine grass, the truth of the matter is you're going out to a club and it's just not going to be that way. And so if a kid needs to prepare that way in order to have some confidence in training diving and everything like that, then that's what they need to do. Eventually they'll grow. Like, I think the better the surface gets and how they grow, they'll grow out of it. But, if that's a hump they need to get over, then absolutely go ahead and wear it. I still don't want them to wear finger saves, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I actually go ahead, Ron.
I think the preparation's key, right? I mean, just making sure that you've got the tools to be able to do your job, whether it's snowing outside, whether it's raining,
Right.
whether it's sunny. Just make sure you've got the tools. Everyone has them at this stage, and you probably for any kid that's probably listening on the show, if you only have one pair of football boots or soccer cleats, I should say, in America, if you've only got one pair, the next investment should be to make sure you've got the opposite end. So whether you've got soft grounds now, make sure you've got a set of firm grounds,
Right.
and vice versa. Because again, you don't want to get into an environment where you're playing on a surface and you start questioning the tools that you're playing in, the gloves that you've got, because that's just an added bit of pressure that no goalkeeper needs.
Yeah, you don't want to get in your head.
Absolutely. By the way, Ryan, when you started saying football boots in your I mean soccer cleats or whatever, I was like, well, you've been in Texas for a while. You have a little bit of that Texas twang going with that Irish accent now. You got this hybrid voice going on right there. I think you can kind of go in between the two. So
yeah, my cowboy boots and cowboy hat in the closet right there.
You say y'all.
I think they give them to you when you land. It's like if you go to Hawaii, you get like a lei, around your neck. Like you land in Texas and you get a hat, boots. That's it.
Part of the initiation at the DMV when you get your license.
Oh my gosh, that's unbelievable. Well, guys, today's topic is not going to be Ryan's wardrobe. Although we would love it to be Ryan's wardrobe. Although it's
I want you to put the hat on.
Yeah, Ryan, next time you come on the show, dude, you got to go in full cowboy gear with like spurs on your feet. Oh man, that would be amazing. We just hear the clinging going on. I can't wear a 10-gallon hat because they're too big. I have a tiny head, so it would literally just.
They have hats for women, Mike.
Okay. Well, but women have bigger heads than I do too. Like I have a head the size of a Cocker Spaniel. It's a very difficult situation going on right there. Guys, I will be headlining February 18th to the 20th in San Diego.
That was a good segue.
Wasn't that a good segue plug right there? So guys, come out on the Oceanside, Chula Vista, San Diego. Ryan, today's topic, guys, is going to be actually creating the youth goalkeeper environment. In your kind of words, what is the youth goalkeeper environment? How does that differ from a professional environment?
I think probably fundamentally it comes down to development, right? If you look at the youth environment, youth is going to be young, right? So you think about you're not going to be getting the finished product. I think when you look at the pro game, there's going to be elements of development when you consider what level and what age group that these players are entering into the pro game. There's going to be areas for development, in the earlier, more infancy time during their pro career. And then the rest of it's going to come down to maintenance. But when you look at the youth game, it's development, right? It's development, it's preparation, and it's building strong fundamentals that are ultimately going to see these kids into their teenage years and ultimately hopefully across the line into becoming professionals. But fundamentally trying to leave whatever environment that you've created as better people. I think for me that's a staple.
Yeah, I think the key word there is that it's fundamentals. Like, when you're in the professional and the elite environment, it's a different animal. Like, when you're in the youth environment and even below academy and everything, it's really like that repetition of fundamentals and slowly integrating that into game speed and understanding how to incorporate those fundamentals into games and why they're used and everything. When you get you're on the pro level and everything, those things should hopefully already be ingrained. And then it's a different type of maintenance and it's a different type of education. You're still always teaching, but it's definitely different.
You know, one thing, Ryan, that I love that you did, and by the way, you know, your presentation is just absolutely phenomenal, and we're going to get into it in a few minutes right now. I mean, that took you, what, 17 years to put together? I mean, that is I honestly, Saskia and I, sometimes we see these presentations and we go, how did these people even have time to coach? They're just on PowerPoint all day long.
Yeah. No, for sure. That's it. It's important to have it right as well, you know, to basically kind of give an identity of who you are as a coach and kind of what your beliefs are. Because I think even like I touched on, when you are coaching in the youth game, it's about consistency, right? Because how often do these kids, you're teaching them new concepts and new ideas, but if you keep bouncing from pillar to post on different ideas, it's you know, you can't keep getting frustrated at a kid because he's not grasping a concept if you're bouncing from one thing to another and there's no consistency, right?
Agreed. And the, you know, especially in the club game, how often are goalkeeper directors or goalkeeper coaches actually seeing the kid? If you're bouncing all around, you have to maintain some consistency there. You can't go from one, okay, we did that last week, now we're going to do this, when they didn't get the first thing. Like, you know, you've got to slow it down and realize that it's going to take time with less time to put into it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you know, and I like what you said there, right, Saskia, in regards to that, because like Ryan, even in an environment like Houston Dynamo, I think one of the biggest misconceptions that people make when it comes to a professional academy environment is they start thinking, oh, these are the finished products. These kids are at the academy. They must know everything. They must be that good. And then they complain. They go, I can't believe so-and-so got chosen for the academy. Like their goal kicks are terrible. And you're like, yeah, but they have certain qualities where we see them eventually being able to be at a certain level. You know, is that something that you deal with consistently?
Yeah, well, it's funny, right? I mean, because a lot of people are going to think, oh, they you know, these MLS teams are going to have the best players, they're going to have the best goalkeepers and everything else. If I'm looking at a kid at 12 or 13 or 14 years of age and complaining over the things that he can't do versus looking at the positives in his game, then I think as a coach, I mean, I'm trying to pull myself off the hook, really, because if you're a coach, your job's to coach, right? It's to coach and develop. So if you're looking for the finished product in a 14-year-old, there's probably a bigger problem, because you have to have a willingness and probably a desire to go out and develop these goalkeepers. That you're gonna look for certain qualities in a goalkeeper, and like you've touched on, you know, as so to speak, the finished product. You're not going to find it at that age. You might find some outstanding qualities, but then a lot of deficiencies or an area that needs work. But you look at it and you weigh it up and say, look, for argument, the one that everyone likes to touch on now, oh, what's he like with his feet, is a really interesting one. I mean, my first question when I look at a goalkeeper is, what's he like as a goalkeeper? Because that's for me still the most important thing. I'm not saying that being good with their feet isn't an important quality. It absolutely is. It's a huge portion of what their actions are at any age group. But if I'm looking at a young goalkeeper, there's certain qualities you're looking at, and a big thing's going to be their personality, their character, how they carry themselves on the pitch, and some of these are more important than what was his ability like to come and claim crosses. I mean, if I'm looking at a 13-year-old, coming and claiming crosses really isn't high on the priority. Again, I'm looking at, does he show a willingness to like want to get on the ball? Does he show a bit of character about himself when he's on the pitch as well? Does he carry himself like someone that really wants to kick on? They're some of the things that really stand out more so than anything else.
I mean, look, I mean, I love one of the things that you just said right there, because this is Saskia, this is something that you've brought up consistently, and that is the simple fact is that you can't put the demands of a professional on a youth player. If you put the demands of a professional on a youth player, they're not going to be able to explore and create and make mistakes and everything like that. So you have to let them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm totally at fault for the first time I ever came into an ID camp 2 years ago down here in Southern California. I was like, okay, it's an ID camp. Like, I had never done an ID camp before or anything. So my automatic assumption was these are the top goalkeepers in the country flying in to get seen by the top coaches in the country. So, they're legit, and that was a rude awakening. Like, because I had set up my session and everything for, serious crosses and team trains and this and that and the other, and come to find that it wasn't effective. Like, I had to change on the fly because you know, the stations I set up and everything, they couldn't happen because kids couldn't strike a ball properly. Like they couldn't volley a ball back and forth to each other. Like it was all over the place. And it was a bit of an awakening to me because I came in with a mindset of to train them at an elite level and realizing that I overshot that big time. So I had to change on the fly really quick. Like Patrick can tell you that. But but still, like I think that, you know, and that was a learning curve for me. It was like, okay, wait a minute, you know, just because they're in an academy or just because there's something doesn't mean you can coach them the same level that you think. Like you really have to assess the players.
You know, you brought up a really good point right there, Saskia. And Ryan, I know that when you came into the professional environment from the, you know, from the collegiate environment, obviously it's a very different animal because now you're working with younger kids. Did you have to change your mindset on what you were looking to identify? Because like, as we've been talking about, like demands are different at the different ages. So do you want a goalkeeper that fits the demands of that age group, or do you want a goalkeeper that's going to be a first team goalkeeper one day? Like what is your thought?
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting one, right? When you get into the academy, your job fundamentally is to try and produce. There's that word. Is to try and provide an environment for these goalkeepers to really find out themselves what kind of goalkeeper they want to be, because it's not necessarily what I want them to be, because it's not cookie cutter that every one of the goalkeepers that we have at the academy is going to come out the same, because then that's selling people short. No two goalkeepers we have at the academy are the same. And no two goalkeepers that we have at the academy do we have the same level of expectation or expect them to make the same decisions in any given scenario, because that's what makes them different, right? So you've got goalkeepers that are going to play super aggressive off their line. You're going to have some that are going to be more reserved, but they each their own have a different skill set and different physical profiles, and these are all things that you have to understand. So I think when we look at our environment, it's about challenging the kids, putting them in scenarios in which we start to see decisions emerge, where we can now question what their character is like, what their desire is like in the goal. Is this just something that they enjoy doing, or do they possess that real strong desire to do what they can to keep the ball out of the goal? Now, that desire can get you so far, for sure. As you get into the older age groups, into the pre-professional category, now you start to look at having a more refined skill set, and probably better judgment when it comes to making decisions. But in the younger age groups, when you look at kids that show that desire, and they show probably a real hunger to develop tactical understanding of the game, is kind of what I look for. When you look at a lot of the issues in the academy, goals conceded, a lot of them are more tactically based flaws versus technical.
Yeah.
I agree. I think, you know, it's hard to say. We can tell who's going to be a goalkeeper. I know that's a hard thing to say, but you can see that desire. You can see that awareness, even at a young age, and that understanding. And it's coachability. It's, you know, are they understanding? Are they taking in what we're trying to explain and teach them and applying it? And every goalkeeper is different and everything. And I think that is the one thing you really are. I agree with you 100%, is what you're looking for at that age.
Yeah, I want to pull this up right now, Ryan, and this is from your presentation right here. Look at this little guy right here. Look at this little guy. He's got his hair. He's got a good solid haircut. He's got his pants. He's got his socks going up over the pants. Yeah, he's ready to go. This is these are the littlest guys that you have right over there, right, Ryan?
Yeah, so this is little Edgar Cervantes. Again, you know, I've touched on it when you talk about a desire to keep the ball out of the goal. That's something Edgar has in abundance. He comes to training every day ready to rock. He comes running into the training ground. He just wants to get himself going, and that's what you look for. Even something like that, the message that sends to the rest of the kids in the group is like he's ready to go. And as you can see, like in the different breakdowns, you have obviously the usual kind of stuff that people will look at: technical, tactical, psychological, social, physical. And the invisible is something that Jason and I talk about a lot, because that's something that you're relying / hoping on the goalkeepers having these things, and you can never really find out, because it's the invisible piece. I don't know if Edgar's going home playing FIFA. I don't know if Edgar's going home watching games on TV. But these are all the bits and pieces that in that foundation phase, at those age groups, that they're all things that are going to continue his learning curve. They're going to give him more exposure to different scenarios in games, even if he's playing FIFA with his friends. Now maybe he's saying, oh, do you know what? Maybe maybe I want to play a 4-4-2 formation with my team, and he sets them up. It just gives them a better understanding. And as silly as that might sound, the more exposure they can have to tactics, to understanding formations, right? Because if he doesn't get exposed to that when he's at home or watching TV and never really has these tactical discussions, at 15, 16, 17, why is he going to know the difference between a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3? It's not going to happen. It doesn't happen overnight. And unless coaches are spending time educating these kids, it's not going to happen. And you see in so many environments, the goalkeeper's being cast off to the side while the team are doing the tactical portion. So how's little Edgar ever going to get a better understanding of what's going on? So I think that's why when we talk about our environments, it's creating game-like situations, even if we're doing functional in possession work, that it looks like how we play and it looks like what we play against. So they're constantly getting tactical understanding of what the game's going to look like come the weekend as much as possible.
Yeah. Saskia, I have a question for you. Can you coach that? Can you coach the invisible? Is that something you can coach? So the continuing to learn, watching live games, just kind of have that hunger to doing the things on your own.
You can. It's hard. It's something that's in. You can coach. You can try to pull passion out of the kids through your training sessions, through what you give them in front of them, and if that builds that invisible, that builds them going home even more hungry and wanting to watch games and wanting to do things on their own, then that starts on the field and through your sessions and everything, kind of, whether it's making it intense and fun at the same time, explaining to them, showing them what to look at when they go home, what to watch, talking to them about it, setting them up for it. But it's a hard thing to do. Like, it only goes so far. It's like asking a kid to do homework that doesn't really like math, So, I mean, if you find that there's that passion in a young kid, you can help push it. You can help guide them into the invisible, I believe.
I had a young lady this week.
It's hard to take it from zero to something. I mean, I had a kid that I was coaching that it was obvious that his dad wanted him to be a goalkeeper, and that there was just no passion. There was no desire to be out there. It was tough.
In regards to just like kind of like that invisible though, like I've had this situation, Ryan, where I just had a young woman. I don't want to throw her under the bus because, everybody each their own or whatever, a young girl. And she told me, she's like, I don't like watching soccer. I like playing soccer, but I don't like watching soccer. So what do you do with a player like that who works hard and she's got desire and
why though? But you have to ask why.
Why doesn't she like watching soccer?
Right. Why? Point. Is it because she doesn't understand the game? Is it because, like that could be it. Like, find out why it's boring. It's this, those are blanket statements. Like, why? Maybe she doesn't understand the game. Like, depending on her age, then you stick her in goal and she understands that position, but maybe give her some things to look at from a different perspective. But like I said,
Saskia, this is a therapy session for me. This is fantastic. I have a new approach, Ryan.
You mean I can start charging? There you go.
You can absolutely just tell Dan Abrahams he's got competition.
There you go.
He's got some competition. All right, I want to go back to little Edgar right here, Ryan.
No, I think Ryan was going to say something.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So, but just exactly on that is understanding the why. So if you look at the psychological piece, Michael, if you just share that again and look at the psychological piece in the bottom left. So again, the love for the position, understanding the why. So why does little Edgar want to play in goal? So exactly like you just said. Mm-hmm. Why does Edgar want to be a goalkeeper? Is it just something he enjoys? Is it something that he loves? Is this something that he sees as this is my life? This is what I want to do. And again, it's just trying to understand what makes these little goalkeepers tick. Like why are they doing this? And from a social standpoint, understanding, do they have role models in the game? And again, they're little things that you can play on. So when I look at the goalkeepers we have at the club, when we have any dead periods in between, if the goalkeeping session's finished and we're not quite ready to slide in with the teams, we'll always have some sort of a debrief at the end of the session just to talk about the session, what they'll learn from it, what they'll take from the session, just to make sure we're not just ticking boxes and training for the sake of training. I want to make sure that they're actually absorbing some information. And you ask them a couple of questions at the end of every session, but when we get a little bit of time, I'll often show them MLS clips. So again, show them goalkeepers that are currently in the league, just to again try and light that fire, just that they're getting to see like world-class saves from different goalkeepers in the league, whether it's goalkeepers at the Houston Dynamo or whether it's goalkeepers up and down the league, just constantly feeding them these little bits of information that they get to see, and hopefully, like Saskia said, hopefully they latch onto it and run with it and really develop a passion.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, that's a good way to go as well. I mean, if she's struggling with that, like maybe she's similar to like a Casey Murphy or a Sheridan or something. Show her some clips and maybe she starts following them when the NWSL starts. And even if she just watches their games and identifies with one person to look up to, maybe that's a good way to go.
I love what you just said right there. And I think, obviously, shout out to all of you all, for having Angel City, have their inaugural season this year, because I think this is going to be extremely beneficial to young girls here in Southern California.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. To be able to go to the games, to be able to go and see those people and have, contact, even if it's off the field, and meet and greets and autograph signings and, all of that stuff is important. It really is, to reach out to young kids. It really is. I mean, that's how, we did it all the time with the U.S. national team when we were, that grassroots was everything for us back in the 90s and stuff, to build the following and build little girls to look up to, the Mia Hams and everybody.
Ryan, I have a question for you, and I know obviously we're veering a little bit off the topic here, but it is still youth development. Do you believe that you guys have an advantage in regards to this element because you are attached to a professional franchise, to a first team, rather than an independent youth club, which is a little bit more difficult for the kids to find role models to look up to?
Yeah, I think I'd be lying if I said. I think I'd be lying and say if I said we're on a level playing field. I mean, I put myself in their shoes. If I had an option to play for the local youth club on the west side of the city or join Houston Dynamo, I think it's a no-brainer that I'd join Houston, because straight away you're putting on a an MLS badge straight away. So automatically that's going to puff your shoulders out a little bit and make you feel, you know what, I'm on the ladder to really get to where I want to get to. And even on that, Saskia was talking about how can you kind of ignite that flame within these young goalkeepers. Paul and Jason came up with an unbelievable initiative that something as simple as the ball boys and ball girls on game day at the stadium, we'd always make sure that we had some of our goalkeepers right in behind either goal. So rather than out at the side, right in behind either goal, so they're seeing the game, getting an understanding. And like someone commented there, Andreas, talking about the awareness in the game. So our young goalkeepers are in behind the goal, so they're seeing what our first team goalkeepers and even opposing goalkeepers are seeing on game day. So again, it's kind of making them feel like almost like I'm nearly there. I'm nearly on the field.
That's genius. It's not just putting them on the sideline somewhere, put them where they can, from that perspective. I love that. I think, yeah, okay, the ball boys we have 4 goalkeepers, so you guys are on either side of the goals on each end. Look at it from the goalkeeper. I love that. That's great.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely phenomenal. I want to do this right now. I want to pull this back up and I want to move up a little bit older. So this young man here, a little bit of scruff on the face now, a little bit of peach fuzz going on with this dude right here. Obviously, and now it looks like girls are starting to become an important thing. So he's got really cool hair.
Oh my gosh, you're such an idiot.
No, very,
I'm just thinking like a middle schooler right now, right? So what do we got going on right here, right?
So the formation phase, as we look at it, is U13 through U15. So again, when you look at the key kind of area that we look at in this is training to redevelop. So you've got 13-year-olds coming in into the phase and leaving as 15-year-olds. So you're going to see some monumental change over that period of time. Now, whether it's physical, emotional, it's everything. You're getting hit with everything through these couple of years. And I think the really important thing from a coaching quality at this point is patience, because you can put 6 months into the kid and go, wow, look, he's coming along. He's in a really good place. Bang, all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, he doesn't know how to use his limbs. He's struggling to concentrate, all this sort of stuff. But again, can you just write the kid off at that point and say, no, he's not up to it? It's not. He's going through physical development. He's maturing. All these things that you've got to be patient with, and just you've got to trust your process as a coach and understand. When I touch about how I go about things, my methodology is not going to change. I understand that physically he's going to change, but my methodologies and my way of implementing what I want to do, and indeed Jason, they can't change, because then you've got an inconsistent body that's growing, inconsistent emotions, I can't throw in consistent coaching into the mix as well, because that's just a recipe for disaster. And then we end up blaming the kid and saying, "Oh, he's not good enough," when in truth, it's not his fault. So we have to be consistent and patient.
And that's actually, it's such an important thing for coaches out there listening. Like, you know, their bodies are changing, and it affects them, and it really does. You know, you leave in the beginning of the summer, at the end of they come back in August, they've grown 4 inches, you know, and now they have to understand how to use their body. Now they can't get down to the ground as fast as they used to. Now they're slower for low balls, or you know, or they're awkward running. There are changes that they're dealing with. And if you can't identify that, if you're like, well, why are you doing this? Well, why can't you go do low balls anymore? You have to take a step back as a coach and realize this kid just grew like 4 inches. He's going through puberty, or she's going through puberty. Things change. And you have to, you know, you still want to be effective, but you have to identify that. And I've watched coaches, field player coaches in club, whether it's with fitness or something, and they're just like, why is like this girl lagging behind? I was like, dude, like her feet are size 11 and she's 5'2", or like she's 5 feet tall. She's like running in clown shoes right now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, she's so awkward, but you know, she's going to grow, you know, and you have to understand that. That's a true story, actually. It really is. I wonder how tall.
But she was 5 feet tall with like
she's
big,
5 feet with
big
size
feet.
11. Size 11.
Oh
Size
my
11.
God.
I mean, I actually have to give her a call. I wonder how tall she is now. I swear to God. And I was just like, and those guys, the field player coaches, the heads of would be like, why can't she move that well? Why can't she move? I'm like, how would you move? Like, it's awkward. Like, give the kid a break. You know, she's doing her best right now and growing into a very awkward body. And I'm sure she's like 6 feet tall now. You know, I mean, that's true.
Yeah, well, I'm still in size 9 shoes, and I was in 5th grade as well too. So,
but it's true, and you have to see those things, especially at this age group.
Yeah, the youth game's going to have, there's no shortage of problems, right? And when you look at problems, I don't mean big issues, but when you look at, call a problem of, look, the kid's after growing and he's struggling with he or she is struggling with their footwork, or you know, their timing on a high ball is one that you often see with younger kids, that they can't find the flight of the ball, and things keep changing. But again, I think it's so easy to go and find, as you could call them, problems, right? Or issues, technical, tactical breakdowns. You can find an abundance of these things, but I think it's, rather than searching for problems, I think we've got to find solutions, right? So what can I do to help? Right. Rather than just saying there's an issue, well, what can I do to help that issue? Absolutely. You know, how can I resolve these things? Because you can find problems all day, but again, you're just wasting time if we look for the problems. What can we do to find solutions? And I think when we look at recording sessions, as simple as it might be, and yes, we're in an MLS club, and I'm sure people will be listening and said, oh, it's easy for him to talk about recording sessions and they've got GoPros and everything else. Great. I also have a phone, and I can put a phone on a tripod and I can record a 45-minute session, not a problem. I can load it onto YouTube, private link, I can cut the video, I can send it out to the goalkeeper all on the same day, no problem. So when you think about being able to record sessions, and you've got to understand what the receptors are for each and every individual. Do they understand straight off the bat? Do they understand by being shown video? Do they understand by being walked through something, recreating a situation? Everyone's going to learn differently. So I think it's up to us to find how we can get our message across, because our message might be a great message, but if they don't have great receptive values to be able to hone in on the message you're trying to deliver, there's a breakdown. And it may not be the kid's fault. It might just be how they individually learn. So again, how can we do things? And I think video is always an important thing. I know as a goalkeeper, when I even before I retired, and I'm looking at things going, no, I feel like I am doing that. And you watch a video back and you're like, oh, no, you're not.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, what? My body weight's, I have perfect shape. My body weight's forward. Everything's going on. I have 2 hands to the ball the whole 9 yards, and it's not so.
Oh, I hate watching tape.
No, but once again, remember, I did everything perfect. That's how we want everybody to believe. But, you know, and the other thing I just want to say in this age group as well is we have to have patience as coaches as well, because of all these changes, because you're going from middle school into high school, because there's social changes, they're emotional, they're environmental, they're everything that changes. Don't go as a coach out there, try to fit what you think. You might have it in front of you if you're patient, and help that kid through the transformation at this age and in this time. Like, don't just say, well, I'm just going to go get somebody that fits what I want. You possibly have it. That's when coaching comes in.
Yeah, I want to bring this up.
It's true. It's true. Like,
I want to bring this up really quickly before we move on to the next group right here, which is, it was a good transition in regards to high school, is that we're talking about the physical redeveloping, but I'm also thinking about the mental redeveloping, because the demands that are being put on these kids now outside of the field are so much higher than they were when they were in elementary school. The school workload has increased. Their expectations by their parents of what their responsibilities are at home have increased.
They're friends.
They're friends. You know, their activities. They're off on their own, you know, hanging out together as opposed to mom and dad, you know, being with mom and dad 24/7. So life is evolving around them. And I think I've made the massive mistake of not taking that into consideration before a session starts.
But you have to. You can't not. Like, you have to look at it like, okay, imagine it this way. Put it in perspective. Imagine if you were in school all day long, or at a 9-to-5 job, like a really taxing 9-to-5 job, moving in between like offices, doing this, doing that all day long, constantly like in meetings from 8 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You're in meetings, like hardcore meetings, really having to focus. And then somebody tells you to get on the field and be your best. You know, plus you've got, you know, puberty hitting, and you've got girlfriends, or you've got boyfriends, or either or you've got the social aspect of it. You have to take that into consideration for the kids at this age. You have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys couldn't put it any better right here. All right, I want to move on to this. Let's move on to this guy. All right, look at this guy now. This guy's a little bit. This guy is.
He's
this guy's getting ready for college. This guy, his voice is starting to go lower. You know, now it's not peach fuzz. Now he's actually shaving every few days.
He doesn't really care that. He doesn't really care.
He doesn't care about his hair anymore. But yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter anymore. He already knows who he is. What's going on in this age group, Brian?
So when we look at the pre-professional, so again, when we looked at the formation phase, just the phase before this, the idea is when you get the younger goalkeepers in, they come in and they're still looking to learn, they're still looking to experiment, and they're still looking to get a better understanding of what the club's expectations are, both in and out of possession. The idea is by exposing them to different bits and pieces throughout what our club would value. You're trying to make them hungry to succeed. You're trying to refine them, give them better ideas that they can play around with and experiment with. And then in the hope that they leave that phase intrinsically motivated, in that they want to be successful for themselves, that they decide at this point, yeah, I'm moving into the pre-professional phase. This is what I want to do. It's about fine margins. I want to find the extra inch. I want to go the extra inch to be able to improve myself in a variety of different categories. And I think it's important when you get to the pre-professional phase, you now look at there being one team. We just carry an under 17. So you've got a pool of four, sometimes 5 goalkeepers looking to compete. So it changes from, we'll go game by game to get minutes, everything else. Now you're looking at training to compete for college scholarships, training to compete for Dynamo 2 contracts, training to compete for pro contracts, training to all these different things and now everything becomes competitive. And like I touched on at the convention, and Jason had kind of had touched on as well, is when we try and create our environments, we try and create them specifically to what the age groups are going to look at. So again, like you touched on, even with the younger ones, when they arrive in the evening having just come from school, I can't just get to them, listen, this needs to be unbelievable straight away. We'll always do a 10-minute warm-up where it's fun, it's engaging, we're chatting, just to get the legs going, just to let them know, okay, you've arrived at training. They can start to get comfortable with the ball. Mm-hmm. Then we can start worrying about training. Once the warm-up's finished, that's your 10-minute buffer to get yourself going.
Oh my God,
and
I'm the same way.
Now the work can start.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I think I would take over a club team or something like that. But even that, they would come out of the car right from school, and I'd be like, all right, you've got your warm-up. Whether it was like 2 laps or like a lap around the field, blah, 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 while I'm setting up. But I'm like, this is your time right now to get all the talking out. Get the chatting out, talk about what happened. You're seeing your friends that were at other schools and stuff, like, go ahead, jog together, talk it out, but slowly transition into that training mentality. But I think this age group now, these kids, it's different. I think these kids know that they're competing for, like you said, college scholarships. They're competing. They want to go pro. They know more who they are. And I think at this age group and up, you're now seeing people that they want a future in soccer. They're starting to understand their bodies better. And I think I like the invisible with the nutrition, the recovery, the hydration and stuff. All this starts to come into play. Like, are you recovering? Because now, I hate to tell you, but now your body's not rebounding like rubber like it was when you were 12.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
That's
all
it.
those things are important.
Yeah, when they don't take care of those bits and pieces, it's ultimately going to take its toll over the long term, right? I mean, maybe if he eats a hamburger on Friday night and has a game on Saturday, maybe he still has a worldie. But if he's doing that every single week, the performances aren't going to get to where they need to get to. And
Exactly.
whether it's hydration, whether it's eating the right things, whether it's sleeping enough, staying up on TikTok all night, whatever it might be, all these things are eventually going to take its toll. And we've just got to make sure as much as possible we're educating these goalkeepers on making the right choices, but at the same time saying, listen, and I say this to the kids all the time, is I've been and gone, I've played, I'm done. This is your career. You've got to take ownership for it yourself. I want you to be successful, but you have to want you to be successful at the same time.
Right.
So, when we look at, training to compete and the fine margins, again, you look at even on the social side of things, setting high standards on and off the pitch. Now, that's just not for yourself. That's for setting high standards off the field for your teammates. Right, from the technical standpoint, just being effective. So now not just understanding what actions that we're looking for, but being effective within those actions themselves. Yeah. From tactical standpoint, now you've seen what the club expects over the last number of years. You've had opportunity to be able to experiment. Now you need to be effective in those actions. You need to be effective at attacking. You need to be effective at defending. And now we're looking for more refined, clear-cut decisions when you do go and execute these actions. And from the psychological standpoint, the big piece for us in a phase where you're looking to train to compete, the psychological piece comes in. You want to be a winner, whether it's in training and you have an absolute desire to be the number one. So we've got a system in place at the club where everything is points based. Once they get in with the team, it's all points based. We do with the goalkeepers. We do competitions and stuff as well, and it's brilliant because you see keepers get pissed off, you see keepers get happy, you see them giving each other a bit of banter as well, and that's the best part of it because. Ultimately, if you get 4 or 5 goalkeepers really trying to compete and bouncing off each other, it's going to create a good competition. Now it's up to me to ensure that competition remains healthy in a good environment. But the only way I can do that is by earning the respect of each goalkeeper and having them fully understand that I want what's best for them. As goalkeepers, I can't promise who's going to play on a weekend, but I can promise that you're going to get my 100% every single day to improve you as a goalkeeper. That's how I go about trying to create a healthy environment. Now it's up to each and every individual to either buy into that or not. I can't guarantee that they do, but I can just do what I think is going to lend itself to be successful to the group in creating that level of competition, but to be healthy.
Yeah.
I got one thing in regards to this right here that I'm looking at to you two right here. And I never even thought about this, but in your social, you've got high standards on/off the field, including social media, which I never even thought about before. But
absolutely.
And I'm assuming, Ryan, what you mean by that is, go ahead.
So we used to look at that with our later high school kids and stuff when I was doing club, and even with UCLA was they had to hold themselves to a certain professional standard on social media and everything. Like, what are you putting out there? You're representing yourself. You're also representing the school. And even if it's club and so on and so forth, what are you putting out there? What's the person that you want seen and want to be? And, we need to educate these kids now about that, even if they don't go on to have a career in football, soccer. I said football, see, Ryan. But in life itself, like, what are you putting out there? And we would have to have some serious meetings with players at UCLA, and some got suspended for the stupidity on social media and not representing the team, not representing the school, the program, and themselves properly.
I mean, look, that is just one of those things.
Sorry.
Like, no, but that's absolutely true. And I guess, this kind of goes to the next question, Ryan, in regards to if I bring this little guy back up here, at what point is this guy ready to be involved with the adults? At what point is this guy ready to be in that professional environment? Because he's going to be held to the standard of an adult when he gets there. You're not going to be holding him to the standard of a 16-year-old when he gets there, right?
Yeah. Again, I think you look at the integration that we've had at the club. I think when you have that level of integration and you're talking about these goalkeepers on a day-to-day and week-by-week basis, it doesn't become a surprise, right? So when you talk about someone that they're in a good place, that character-wise, they they're in a good spot as well. They're all going to be important pieces when they get the recommendation to possibly slot into the first team because they need a fourth goalkeeper that day in training, they have an injury, whatever it might be. So it's not a flippant decision. It doesn't just become, oh, we need one, send up, random Joe. It's everything's thought out, that you're constantly trying to think about, if this situation arises, we've got to know that we're comfortable sending someone up. So again, that's something that we mention to the goalkeepers all the time. Fortunately, where we're at in Houston, the first team train literally one side of the road and the academy the other side of the road. So you're literally looking at your potential pathway across the road. And we use that expression all the time when we're trying to really, really set home the standards and say, listen, if you think these standards are acceptable here, if you go across the road, how far do you think that's going to get you?
Yeah.
So it's great to have that reference, that it's literally anything that you think can be, even when it comes to the social media, if you think something can be questioned or you think something could be taken the right way, it's probably not worth posting, because you're not a celebrity with 10 million followers getting paid for this stuff. So you're probably better off not posting, because it's going to cost you more than it's going to benefit you.
And you can think of it also this way, kids out there, is it might not be anything for you, but it can definitely be used against you when somebody wants it to. And I know that sounds horrible, but it's if you're teetering between two goalkeepers and there's certain parts of that, your character, that are showing up on social media that are questionable, the other keeper's going to get the nod.
Yeah, I mean, and I believe, Ryan, that this is something that now happens. I mean, I know not every player coming out of Houston is going to go pro right away. A lot of them are going to go that college route, and I think they have to understand that when it comes to college recruiting, that if you have been making disparaging remarks about your coaches on social media, or you're posting pictures of you partying, exactly, or skipping on work, or making fun of school or whatever, that's the kind of stuff that they're going to take into consideration. So.
The quickest and easiest way to get a character reference on someone you don't know is to flick onto
the social media. Yeah, it's true. And kids out there and everybody, and even coaches that are watching, when you're educating your teams and everything like that, it's true. Colleges will go to people's social media to get kind of a feel of we don't know. They're kids from all over the world sending in and wanting to be recruits and stuff, and get to go all over the world to meet these kids, and you go on the social media to see if they'll fit onto your team, if they'll fit onto your pro team and stuff. So it's really important to hold yourself to a certain standard and show that.
And then you don't see any football photos on their feed, and you start to really question, well, do they really like the game, or is this just something they do just because they sort of like it?
Yeah, or because their friends are doing it.
I can't tell you how many people I've seen who I've gone on their things and there's nothing about soccer whatsoever, and there's like there'd be no way to know that this person is even involved in soccer. So you're absolutely correct about that, Ryan. I mean, that's massive. There's a question here from Adrian Cronin, Goalkeeping. I'm going to throw it up here right here. He's for Ryan. Hi, Ryan and guys. Ryan, how do you compare goalkeeping development in America to that of Ireland, England? Do you think there's a difference?
Okay, Adrian. So I did my UEFA B license with Adrian back home. So Adrian, good to hear from you. So, do I think there's a difference? I think you still need to teach, right? I think you need to teach. I think when people start going on the internet to find drills and stuff like that, and look what De Gea's doing, look what Neuer's doing, context is key. A drill is a drill, right? The drill is only as good as the coaching that within it. You could get the best goalkeeper coach in the world, and he may not set a cone down. It's the quality of the actual coaching information is what is going to fundamentally improve anyone. So I think when you look at developing, I think some considerations you have to look at are numbers that you're dealing with. What's your player to coach ratio? What's your time? What's your your contact hours? What's the age specific that you're dealing with? They're all things that have to be looked at. And like I said, a big thing is consistency. If you can be coaching in smaller numbers, it's obviously better, because you can get into more detail with each and every individual goalkeeper. And I think coaching can't be generic. I think it has to be specific for each and every kid. Now, whether that's young or old, I think coaching has to be individualized. Otherwise, I think we're doing people a disservice. Again, like I touched on at the start, no two goalkeepers are the same. So I can't just give generic coaching points. It has to be maybe in the flow of something. Maybe the kids are serving each other, and I pull Angel off to the side and say, Angel, listen, take care of your left foot. It keeps coming out of the floor. Have a little look about it. Maybe you do this. Bang. Angel goes back in, and then we move on, right? So you can coach in the flow. It doesn't have to be a breakdown. It doesn't have to be a big ordeal. You can just find ways to do it. That's if you're dealing in bigger groups, you don't want to slow things down. maybe coaching in the flow is going to be a better way to do things. I think reflecting on video is going to be an important piece. If you've got a big group, you can always go back as a coach and watch video and send clips to goalkeepers and say, listen, what we were talking about the other day, have a little look at whatever technique it might be. What do you think? Because you start to engage with them. All the coaching doesn't have to happen on the field.
No, I love what you're saying right there, Ryan, in regards to all the coaching doesn't happen to have on the field. And I think, Saskia, this is a mistake that I made personally, and I think I've had this conversation with both yourself and Omar when I was younger, and by younger I mean like maybe a year ago, is that I thought I had to give information all the time, and that if I wasn't giving information, that I was doing something wrong. And then I would freak out that I didn't give enough information. So afterwards, I would give too much information after the session. So it's like I had to start learning like when to choose when to make my coaching points. Is that something that you ever went through on your journey as well too, or is that just me?
No, I think all young goalkeeper coaches, all young coaches out there, they fall into that thing of overcoaching or who are you trying to please in that situation? Like, if you're out there and you're doing a private and their parents watching, like, are you giving too much information because you want the parents to hear you talking? Like, are you setting up drills that really are just ridiculous because you want the field to look like there's a lot going on? You really have to find your rhythm, have confidence in who you are as a coach. I tend to hold on my coaching points and I'll give them, I'll watch. I allow my goalkeepers to make mistakes, and I want to see if they can adjust the mistakes without me having to tell them what to do. And of course, this is at a higher level. Like, if they're repeatedly doing the same thing wrong, like eventually, okay, how many times is this going to happen to you? We're going to step in and we're going to talk about it. But I want to see in the flow of, if we're playing a small sided, if we're even in training, like, can you make your own adjustments? And that's my coaching style, and it works for me. And but you have to ask yourself, why are you overcoaching? Like, who's it serving?
I think it was serving me, honestly. Like, to be
your
straight up honest.
Insecurity?
Yes, I felt like I had to.
But that's okay.
I felt I had to prove to them that I know what I'm talking about, and that's insecurity, in my opinion. So
yeah, but you've grown out of that. It was last year?
Yeah, last year, 3 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. It was last week. It was last week, guys. It was last week.
I heard a really interesting one when it comes to this stuff, and I think it's so bang on when it comes to coaching and people overcoaching. One of the coaches in the academy here, Dan Roberts, said it to me the other week. He was saying it, he had heard it. There was a coach on one of the sidelines the other week, and he was just a constant. And he was like, kids aren't really picking up information. And he said, I'd rather be a sniper than a machine gun. And
Absolutely.
It makes perfect sense.
I like that.
Perfect sense. Because again, you talk about with young players, are they really going to absorb all this information, or do you just become noise at some point?
Yeah, and we tell our goalkeepers the same thing when they're doing communication, right? Yeah. So you would say, are you just noise that everybody's shutting out because you're just out there babbling? Or, are you a sniper? I like that. Are you saying things when they need to be said and on point, and so that people listen to your voice when it's heard? Because eventually, if you're just noise, nobody's going to listen to you. Nobody's going to absorb anything. And when you really have something important to say, it's going to get lost in the noise.
But talking about youth development, though, I think one of the issues, at least for me, has always been is that I've gotten frustrated at the youth level, and I feel like I'm, how are they not getting this? What other approach can I do? So I'm trying a different approach. And they're just not getting it. And I forget the fact is, again, like we're talking about 7th grade, what just happened at school. Maybe they're just not into it today, and I just need to start recognizing that sometimes it's just not going to happen, and I should just let it go and move on to something else. Is that something that either of you have ever run into?
Yeah, I think, like I touched on, I think seeing the game through their eyes versus just seeing how I see it is always going to be an important piece of it as well. So I think at the end of the sessions, with all the goalkeepers that we have at the club, at the end of every session, there's always, right, fellas, thoughts, questions, issues, concerns. Like, what went well? What did you enjoy? What did you not enjoy? What was the idea behind the session? because that gives me an understanding of where they're at. Are they actually paying attention to what's going on? Are they really grasping what I'm trying to get out of the session? I'm not just running a drill for the sake of it. There's learning behind it. There's an objective behind it. And if I can hear back from the kids what they're seeing and what they're understanding, that gives me a better clue of where they're at. So now my coaching can be tailored towards what they need to be coached on versus what I think they need to be coached on without hearing where they come from.
Right. And I think it's also in delivery and everything like that. Do your players feel comfortable saying in the environment that you've created, saying, well, coach, I really just don't get this. Like, like, I think I'm on my front foot. I think this is going this way. Is it not? Like, are your players comfortable saying that to you? Are they comfortable having those conversations? And you need to look at yourself and say, what kind of environment am I creating that these kids, we have to be able to have open discussions instead of that. They're not just robots. Okay, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, because that's how you want them to do it. And they're not getting it. So Mike, you have to step back and have a conversation. So stop your practice if you have to, instead of just moving on and saying, are you not really understanding what I'm saying? Like, where's your mind in this? Like, maybe you have to dial it back and break it down even more to get out of it what you want, instead of moving away from it. Maybe you have to move backwards and make it even simpler to get the results, and then move forward to get the results that you want. But be able to have that open line of communication with your players.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely sound advice.
I know,
for anybody
I'm
out there
amazing, and I don't have a job.
who's struggling through.
I'm just sitting here talking to myself. I don't.
Who's struggling with all that? Guys, we have a few questions. I know we've been going about an hour right now, but we have a few questions. And shout out to all the young goalkeepers that have been listening to us, either watching us on the Union. Shout out to everybody who's been subscribing to the Union. It's a free app, guys. We start posting in the forum, start engaging in those conversations.
Ask the questions. Absolutely.
Ask the questions. And if we don't get to it here, guys, post it in the forum on the Union. We'll get to the question. I promise you.
Yeah, I know, Mike, what I think we are going to start doing is we'll pull up some of the questions like on our podcast and everything. And
absolutely.
We'll answer them here on the podcast. So, if we don't get back right to you in the Union with the answers, we'll make it a discussion topic on the podcast as well.
Absolutely.
You're like, oh my God, Sasuke, that was brilliant.
No, that was absolutely brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant. So see, your skills are.
I have too much time on my hands.
All right, guys. Okay.
So
here's
what is it, Raphael? Is that correct?
Yeah. So
thank you. Tell him I said thank you for giving me a shout out for Women's Coaching Day, right? Women in Sports Day.
Women in Sports Day, and I think he was also giving you a shout out too.
Thank you,
Ryan, right there too.
I follow him. He's like a little legend. First of all,
obsessed. Goalkeeping.
He's amazing.
He's like a little Georgie Campos. He always wears.
He is.
Unbelievable.
They put pictures up of like the same outfits side by side. I'm like, oh my God, this kid's amazing.
Yeah. No, unreal.
So I follow you. I just want you to know that.
So here's a question from a young man right now, and it goes, and this is from I Am the Real Drake. He goes, I am a 15-year-old goalkeeper, and I am insane. Someone's got some confidence. Insane at saving 1v1s and high balls. However, I don't seem to be able to react quickly enough for low shots. Any help? Anybody want to take this?
Well, insane at saving 1v1s and high balls. Totally different. Everything's totally different there. How are you saving the 1v1s? What kind of through balls? Is it somebody dribbling at you? Are you standing them up? Are you doing the block save? Are you doing the K save? Like, what are you doing in regards to at 15 saving the 1v1s? If it's coming down to low balls and shot stopping, like, where are you having trouble? Is it in close? Is it balls that are bending away from you into the corner and stuff? I'd say the easiest scenario is watch your positioning. Maybe you're a little too tight to your line. That's why you're getting beat in a goal at 15 years old. Maybe come off your line a little bit, body weight forward. Don't handle it like it's a breakaway, like it's a 1v1. It's a shot. So, we get a lot of goalkeepers that come out and they have their hands down low and they're too far away from the ball, and you're treating it as if it's a breakaway. It's not. It's a shot. Get your timing on your set correct. Body weight. Don't guess. And 2 hands to the ball and react. Is that good?
I think that's great, and I think Saskia, you brought up a really good point right here in regards to, and for this young man right here who's watching to hear, is that context. when you ask questions like this, we need to have context, and rather than think from a vague standpoint, it's better for you to look at the pictures and the scenarios where you've been unsuccessful in these
Absolutely.
actions. And that's going to lead you to be successful in the future. Don't think of that's vague, because every scenario is different. So, you need to really go back and look at those pictures.
Yeah, and if you can videotape yourself and look at when you're getting beat on those low balls, is it because it might just be it's a positioning thing, not a reaction thing, not and everything. Like it could be where you are in the goal. It could be you're not following the ball across properly. Like, so there are a lot of things that go into a save and a goal. So my best thing would be to videotape yourself and sit with your goalkeeper coach and really look through it, post it on the union, and we can give you some feedback and everything. But that's a good way to start, because everything, like Mike said, everything's different. Brian.
Absolutely. Brian, anything you want to add to that, or we've got another question for you? You can take this one if you want to take this one.
Sure.
All right. Okay, this comes from Gaming Guy. I have a feeling he plays video games.
Nice emoji.
I know. He goes, "Hello, I have a question. I need to know what do I do if I don't seem to see the ball? Like, I don't see the flight of the ball as much. Even do I do the hop in the air? When in air, I can't see the ball." So I think what he's trying to say is he's losing sight of the ball, and he's trying to make a recovery movement after he's lost the flight of the ball.
Yeah, so I think crossing is something that a lot of people look at and go, "Oh, it needs to be better," and it's probably an area that can be underworked at sometimes. But sometimes when it's coached, it's introduced at a too advanced level. Like, people start whipping in balls from a wide area. I think when you start at basics, again, I've no idea the age, I've no idea the level, no idea the size, the physical makeup, nothing else like that. But what I'd say probably off the bat, if I'm bringing in entry level crossing, I'm starting off with hand service. I'm talking about positioning. I'm talking about positioning in the goal. I'm talking about the initial step that they take, that it's not wasted energy, not gambling and guessing with that first step, that maybe it's a first step forward towards the ball, and now the ball's gone a big deep cross, and now you're struggling going back on your feet and you're slow, which decreases your range massively. I think when you look at crossing situations in call it flank area or narrow crosses, I think you start to look at some of the ingredients. Is it a right-footed player? Is it left-footed player? Is it one touch, two touches? The ball bouncing? Is it stationary? Is it moving? Can I see the line of the ball the whole way? Are there bodies in the box? All those different sorts of things. Weather conditions, wind. There's a million and one different things that go into it. But I'd start simple. I'd go with hand service just to start seeing the flight of the ball. Then I could start adding in some dummies just so there's a bit of traffic in the line. Then add some movement in around those dummies that you've got more in the eye line. Just so you're really kind of building on those fundamental qualities. Then you can start to add in live service. Once you get into the live service, ensuring that you're looking at it in a 3-part, that you're looking at the cross coming in. Okay, so it's a cross that's coming into the box. You're making an assessment of the flight of the ball. You're deciding whether you're going to come for the ball or drop off to defend the goal. And then your action's going to be at 100%, because if you take too long in any of those periods, there's going to be a breakdown. If you take too long assessing the flight of the ball, you're late. If you go assessing the ball too soon, you're going to be under the flight of it. So it's patience. But then once you make your decision, now you can't be patient. Now you've got to be super aggressive to go and back yourself. That would be my.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just said. I mean, I think honestly, now I see how you put those PowerPoints together, because that was very step by step from a bullet point standpoint. Guys, should we take one more question, or should we just tell people, if because I know everyone's running on time here, to just post it in the forum on the union?
We can do one more question.
Okay, we can do one more question.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. One more question. Better be a good one.
And by the way, hi, Stan.
Yeah.
Hello, Stan.
Hi, Stan.
All right. So this one comes from Mark Duffield. So now we got a coach's question here. He goes, "Great conversation. I've missed some of the pod, so apologies if this has been asked. Within the Dynamo Academy, what is the schedule for keepers? How much keeper coaching do they receive in a typical week? Phase by phase differ?" ? And I'm assuming this is for Saskia. This is for Saskia.
It's absolutely for me.
Yeah.
I got it. Go.
Yeah, so it was Mark, right? So Mark, when we look at the goalkeepers in the academy, so we would have our formation goalkeepers, and they'd all be in brick and mortar schools. So they'd train in the evening. We'd start at about 5:30 at night, and we'd get generally about an hour to train with them. Monday, Tuesday, we've got an additional coach that would take the 13s and take some catalyst goalkeepers, which would be under 12s, to give them an idea of what the expectations are once they make their way into the academy, if they do in fact get selected to join the 13s. So the 14s and 15s would train just together on the Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday would typically be a day off. Thursday, Friday, then we'd have the 13s, 14s, and 15s together, an hour every single one of those days, and then I would be in behind the goal. So where we are at the sports park, we've got multiple fields. So the 13s, 14s, and 15s will be training at the same time on various fields. So I'll just take my time and stagger around the goals to make sure that they're getting coaching actually in the flow of when they get into the team integration part of the sessions. For the pre-professional group, they're all online schools, so they all come in first thing in the morning. So they'll be in the building about an hour and a half before training, about an hour to an hour and a half before training, which gives me the ability to start the session a little bit earlier. So again, we'll always get about 45 minutes to an hour's work before they get in with the team. We could do supplementary work because they have all morning and afternoon before they do their online schooling. So we get more time with them to do the video work, to do the gym work, to do the supplemental work, to do the individual development plans, that we can touch base on some of those things because they have more time. But every goalkeeper at the club would have contact with a goalkeeper coach every single day that they train. So we're fortunate to be able to offer that, and our groups would never really be anything bigger than 5. So again, we're fortunate to be able to offer
That's
that.
excellent.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
That's amazing. Saskia, I have a question for you before we finish up right here, because you've seen this at all the different stages as a player, as a coach. What happens when you bring up a player from a youth environment into a professional environment and they're not successful? How do you make them still believe in themselves rather than take it as that they're not that good? Because obviously, I'm assuming what you do in that situation is you move them back to the their age appropriate group. But a lot of the times, just the fact that they were up there and they didn't feel like they succeeded, all of a sudden they're not at the same level that they used to be. I've just seen this happen.
Well, I mean, I can't speak on the coaching on the professional, so that'd probably be a better question for Ryan. But but for me, like even college wise and stuff, you have to have conversations about expectations. And when you bring a freshman in or something, like what are the expectations? Obviously I had 5 goalkeepers and an amazing senior, and now she's doing a grad year, but you have to have those conversations. And I've seen players come in and fail, but it comes down to yourself as an educator, as a therapist, and having serious conversations with those players, and if they can get through it, because that becomes a mental thing as well. And they have to, are they going to crumble? Are they going to just, or are they going to do the work that can take them back up? And so, what can you put in place as a coach to raise their level? And some players will only get so far. You can only run the 40. You can only run the 40 so fast. Like no matter how much training you do, it's just the truth. Like some players, that's just it. I spent number 2 on the U.S. national team for 10 years. Like, trust me. So, and I did everything I could. So I think that it's really about conversation and everything. It's not just saying, all right, well, you failed, go back down, I'm never looking at you again. That would be you can't just give up on somebody.
No, of course not.
But
kids
are going to give up on themselves. Like, who are you?
That's what I'm saying. They're going to give up on themselves. And I've seen this, like even kids brought up to national team camps, and then they don't do well at the national team camp, and they come back to their club and they're not the same player they were because now they don't believe in themselves. And Ryan, I'm sure you've seen this, at the MLS academy level.
I will tell you that Kate Markgraf, and she won't get mad at me for telling a story. Kate Markgraf, who's the general manager of the women's national team, who played with me on the '99 World Cup team. Her first national team camp was a debacle, and she knows that, and she tells this story. We were in Florida, and she failed fitness. She was like, it was a nightmare. She had a horrible camp and everything, and she really struggled with that for 2 years, and she didn't come back. But she felt like she went back to Notre Dame. She kind of worked through it. She worked through the things emotionally she had to work through. She understand that her level of fitness and things had to change, and her commitment had to change. And dude, she's a '99 World Cup champion and general, so you have to, it really comes down to the personality of the player as well, and who they're surrounding themselves by when they do fail. you know, and if their support system is allowing them to give up, or they're helping raise them back up. And are you part of that support system? Sorry, Kate, but you know, you've told the story, so I figured it was free reign.
It's probably free reign. She's probably got a few other things that she's got to focus on right now.
I'm never
general
gonna
manager of U.S. Soccer.
Yeah, I know.
Ryan, real quickly while we wrap here, though, I do have a question. Like, have you ever regretted bringing a player up, or do you feel like it's always been a learning experience for them?
I think it's always a learning experience. I think we talk about not making our environments comfortable for people, because you grow when you're uncomfortable. You know, if you're a big fish in a small pond, you'll always remain that way, right? And then when you decide to make a jump, the jump might seem too great, and now you sell yourself short, that you think, oh no, I can't do that. And I think failure can be a good thing, right? I mean, because failure, right, it can be blown out of proportion too, right? You know, failure comes down to expectations, and it also comes down to context and understanding of where people are at. We played one of our under 14s goalkeepers in a big under 15s game, right? And something happened right at the end of the game. He's unbelievable with his feet, and the ball got turned over, and the team went on to lose the game, right? But you don't lose faith in that. You just say, look, it's a learning opportunity for him to understand, listen, when you're at this level, the level of press, the level of speed, the level of intensity is going to come quicker. So let's have a look at that over the next few weeks in training. That doesn't mean that I'm going to sever him from getting that opportunity again. And in fact, he went back in and played another game with the 15s in a tournament recently here at the Texas Cup, and he's probably the best player on the field. So again, you could understand that in the period in between those two games, there was probably 2 to 3 months. So there was this nervous energy that had built from him, that when I get this opportunity again, what's it going to be like? But again, that's when, as a coach, you got to step forward and build a relationship with them and give them a full understanding of, listen, I'm not telling you it's going to go great, but I'm going to be here to be able to dissect and help you move forward come the end of it.
Yeah.
By the way, I also, when I listen to Ryan, I feel like I'm listening to an Omar Zini with an Irish accent, is what I what kind of get. Well, like, I feel like he's been like mimicking your speech patterns when what. No, because he's going into a similar role, and I think he was shadowing you at convention.
As long as
Ryan,
you don't try to do the accent, I'm fine.
He's shadowing you, and he's just. Oh my gosh. Well, guys, I think this is a good place to end on everything. Ryan, if anybody wants to reach out to you, where's the best place?
There you go.
There you go.
I love the little brain.
I do too.
That's about the actual size of mine. So if anyone has any questions on anything, I'm a complete open book. Like Jay and myself always said, complete open book when it comes to goalkeeping. There's no secrets. There's no elitism or anything else like that. If I can help in any possible way, feel free to reach out to me through Twitter, through my Instagram handle, and I'm happy to share some information, answer questions, and just be of help to anyone. Maybe they like the stuff, maybe they don't, and that's absolutely fine. I'm just happy to give my opinion and help anyone that requires it.
And guys, obviously, if you want to reach out to Saskia Weber, reach out to her at Saskia on the Union. Make sure that you are doing that. Guys, there are DMs on the Union, so you can do it as a DM privately if you don't feel comfortable doing it. And if you're not on the Union yet, guys, at Saskia_Weber on all social medias, and she'll probably direct you to the Union is probably what she will probably do right there. Guys, if you have a guest suggestion or topic suggestion, contact at Inside the 18. That's the number 18media.com, or at Goalkeeper Podcast on the Union. You can also reach out to us on other social media platforms, but we will direct you again to the Union. Are we selling this enough, Ryan? I'm not sure if we're selling this enough.
No.
Pretty good, right? Pretty good. I'm taking notes here. What was that again?
Oh my guys. If you want to reach out to me directly, guys, michaelmagidcomedy.com. Like I said, February 18th to the 20th, San Diego. Insiders, please come out. I am headlining. The way that you get another headlining gig is that you actually have fans that come out to the show. So please come out and support michaelmagidcomedy.com. Ryan, this has been amazing.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Ryan. Really, really glad we were able to make this happen, even though you had to leave the convention early. And guys, that is all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.
Yeah!